My name is Lisa. I live in a small house with my mother in a quiet neighborhood. My mother loves me very much. She takes care of me, cooks my favorite food, and helps me with my schoolwork. Every night before I sleep, she tells me bedtime stories. There is a big window in my room. I love that window. When I open it, I can see the blue sky, tall green trees, and birds flying freely. I love feeling the fresh air on my face. My window makes me feel connected to the world outside. But one day, something changed. My mother closed my window. She locked it. I didn't understand why. It was a bright morning. Sunlight was streaming through the curtains. Birds were chirping. I stretched and walked to my window, ready to open it like I did every morning. But when I tried, it didn't budge. It was locked. "Mom, why is my window closed?" I asked, confused. She turned to me, her face unusually serious. "It's better this way, Lisa," she said firmly. I didn't understand. My room suddenly felt different, smaller, darker, almost suffocating. I tried to open the window again later, but it was locked tight. When I asked my mother again, she didn't answer. She just stood near the door, looking outside. A few weeks ago, a man had moved into the empty house across the street. He was always alone. He was tall, always dressed in black, and never spoke to anyone. I had noticed him before, many times, from my window. He often stood outside his house, looking in our direction. Sometimes he would just stand there, staring at our house for long minutes without moving. One evening, I finally told my mother about him. "Mom, that man is always looking at our house," I said. Her face tensed. "Do not look at him, Lisa, and stay away from the window," she warned. I had never seen my mother this worried before. That night, I woke up suddenly. Something felt off. The room was quiet, but then tap, tap, tap. I froze. The sound was coming from my window. My heart pounded as I slowly turned my head. The window was locked, but outside, through the glass, I could see a shadow. Someone was standing there. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I took a step closer, and the streetlight outside flickered just enough for me to see his face. It was the man from across the street. He was standing right outside my window, looking in. I ran to my mother's room, shaking. "Mom, someone is outside my window." She jumped up immediately and rushed to my room. But when she looked outside, the street was empty. "Are you sure, Lisa?" she asked, but I could see fear in her eyes. I just nodded. The next morning, my mother didn't take any chances. She put a bigger lock on my window and covered it with heavy curtains. "You must never open this window," she said, her voice firm. I felt a lump in my throat. My favorite window, my little view of the outside world, was now shut forever. Days passed. The man was still there. Sometimes I would see him standing in front of his house, staring at ours. One evening, my mother finally told me the truth. "That man is dangerous," she said in a low voice. "Years ago, he lived in this house. Before we moved in, he did something very bad. The police took him away, but now he's back. He watches this house every night. That's why I locked your window. A shiver ran down my spine. I wanted to ask more, but I was too afraid to hear the answers. One night, I woke up again, but this time, the noise wasn't at my window. It was coming from outside our house. I held my breath and listened. A rustling sound. Footsteps. I ran to my mother's room. She was already awake, her face pale. We peeked through the curtains. The man was not there. The street was empty. The next morning, the police came. They told us that the man had disappeared. He had left his house in the middle of the night and never returned. No one knew where he had gone. Even after he was gone, my mother never opened my window again. Some windows must stay closed, she said, and I never asked her about it again.